Well, hi, everyone. My name is Janine Rubenstein. I am a former music editor, current editor at large, and also host of People Everyday podcast. This is all in the People family, and it is so great to be here. It's an honor to moderate this grill session on record labels and the modern music business. So, we're here to challenge assumptions, get past obsolete stereotypes, and dig deep into what it takes to make a hit song today and how record labels and artists work together to turn those hit songs into lasting careers. So, without further ado, let's meet this panel, starting with Jessie. In addition to being a singer, songwriter, and entrepreneur, Jessie James Decker is a big yellow dog, Atlantic Records, Warner Music Nashville recording artist. Jessie is also a style entrepreneur, a television personality, and a New York Times best-selling author. She also happens to be the mother of three adorable children. And Jessie, I loved seeing you and Eric dancing with the kids to Should Have Known Better on Instagram. It was so cute. Then we
Thank
have
you.
Cris Lacy, who is Executive Vice President of Artists and Repertoire at Warner Music Nashville, where she leads the team, seeking out and signing new talent and providing resources and creative support to the label's recording artist partners. In this role, she helped bring artists like Dan and Shay, Zach Brown Band, Ingrid Andress, and Ashley McBride to the Warner roster, as well as Jessie James Decker. Then there's Michele Ann. She's an executive vice president, head of visual creative at Interscope Geffen A&M. Michele's team collaborates with artists on visual elements of their work, including video, photography, packaging, advertising, live performances, film, and TV. According to Interscope Geffen A&M, Michele's team works on over 100 videos a year with roughly 1 billion monthly views. 1 billion. And then we're going to move on over to Phil Thornton. He is Senior Vice President and General Manager of RCA Inspiration, a division of Sony Music Entertainment, where he works with a wide range of inspirational artists, including Kirk Franklin, Marvin Sapp, and Donnie McClurkin. A true Renaissance man, Phil is also a successful film and television producer, artist manager, and podcaster. He's proof that there truly are no more silos in the entertainment business. Then we have Michele Ballantyne, last but definitely not least. She is the Chief Operating Officer at the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, the trade association that represents record labels in Washington, D.C. Michele is an attorney with a distinguished background in politics and policy, working on Senator Tom Daschle's staff, and then as a special assistant to President Bill Clinton and a special counsel to White House Chief of Staff John Podesta. So, guys, it is so exciting to be here with all of you. This is a stacked panel, and I can't wait to get into it. All right, so feel free to unmute as we go through this and pop in. I'm going to direct some questions to individuals, of course, but if something moves you, raise a hand and we'll get to it. So starting off with Jessie, which is maybe the simplest part to start, we want to go in on the artist's perspective. So what made you want to be in the country space? You had such success in so many different areas. Why is your heart so firmly planted in country music?
Well, my heart was with country music before I got into all these other businesses. So I started in music, and it's been my main passion. I never dreamt that I'd be doing all these other things. I never thought I'd be making cookbooks. Didn't know I'd be on a TV show. I didn't know I'd be doing any of these other avenues. It just kind of happened that way. But my goal, as young as 3 years old, I wanted to be a country singer. I always had a plastic guitar in my hand, was drawing myself singing at the Grand Ole Opry, fantasizing about being a big country artist like Loretta Lynn or Shania Twain one day. And so it's just always been in my heart. I'm from the South. I've always been a country girl, and it's always been my dream and my goal. But life's funny that way. Your life will take you on a different journey that you never expected. And I always give the example of that movie Under the Tuscan Sun, where she's saying out loud, I want to have a wedding at this house, and I wanted to have a baby at this house, and I wanted to feed a family at this house. And even though she didn't have a baby, and it wasn't her wedding, she had all those things happen just in a different way. She actually got everything she wanted, but just in a different way than she had pictured it. And so I feel like for me at this place, I've had things happen for me that are blessings, and I'm grateful, and I've worked really hard. They've just happened in a path that I never expected. And that's what's funny about this business and life.
For sure. So why join a record label? Why go for a record deal? What was it about that helped you achieve your goals in Nashville?
I've always wanted to be signed to a Nashville label. It has been my goal since I was, I graduated high school and I moved to Nashville 2 weeks later, and wanted a record deal so badly here because I wanted to be a country artist. I wanted to be on country radio. But I was passed by every label, got turned down, and ended up getting a record deal based out of New York. LA Reid signed me to a pop label. And even though I'm so grateful for LA and he's been one of my main and biggest cheerleaders, it wasn't the country music platform that I needed to grow. And so fast forward, I'm resilient. I do not give up. So if someone says no to me, I just don't even hear that. I just keep going until I get what I really want. And so I'm 33 years old. I've been doing this since 2007, going after this. And no was just not the answer. So I came knocking on Warner, sat in the room with Cris herself. And I told him my whole story. I was like, listen, I'm not going anywhere. I want to be a country singer. This is what I was born to do. And I'm here again. And they got me. They understood me.
Nice. And for any of the young or aspiring artists on here, what you said about not giving up and knocking down those doors, take heed. But also, what specifically, I guess, what is it about a record label, just in general, that, made it so much a part of your goal? I mean, the times were a little bit different then, but I'm just wondering, like, was it just having that security? Was it having that access to advertising? Like, what was it for you?
It's interesting. So back when I first got a record deal, there was no Instagram. There was no major social media. There was nothing. Twitter hadn't even started, actually. I think there was MySpace. And so the ability for artists to really put their music out there on their own wasn't there yet. And so for me, the answer was always, I need a record deal. I have to have a record deal. But fast forward, over 10 years, and I do have all those platforms. I do have an Instagram, and I do have, access to making myself visible to everybody. But when it comes down to it, I still want a record deal because I'm not only an artist, but I'm a businesswoman. And I know I want to have a business. I want a partnership with a record company that believes in me and understands me so that we can have this goal happen together. This is no different than any other business out there. This is a business relationship where I have a goal. I have a dream. I want to be on country radio. I want to get playlisted properly. I want to meet all the right people to help me make this happen. And I think for them, they see me as I'm hardworking and I'm passionate about this, and I'm going to outwork anybody in this industry. And so that's probably appealing to them. So it was just the right business relationship. But to sum up your question, I still think we need record companies. I do. And I still think we need them to help us in a different way outside of the outlets that we do have access to. But those outlets are great to get your start. So this has been very helpful to raise awareness of who I am as an artist, but I need them to go from here to here.
Yeah. And then just one last thing. I'm wondering of like one specific way you would say that your team, working with the label has been able to kind of expand your fan base, because you already had it and it was in kind of one lane, and then you needed to merge those two groups and grow them. So if you could point to like one thing that working with the label allowed you to do that.
Well, I think, we're just kind of getting started, but if I would say anything so far, it's getting playlisted on different streaming avenues that I've never been able to be on before. So maybe someone that's, on Apple Music and listening to country hits of the day, I would have naturally never been able to be put on that playlist. And maybe someone that's an avid listener on that playlist is going to say, oh, I love this song. I don't know this girl. And thanks to Warner and them implementing that, that's another way for me to be heard.
Nice. Okay. So let's switch over to the label's perspective with Cris Lacy.
Cris.
So tell us about Warner Atlantic's partnership with Jessie.
Oh man. It's a village. It's a village. We've got Big Yellow Dog, which is Carla Wallace. Carla's found several artists that you guys know, Megan Trainor and Maren Moore. So she's obviously really good at picking strong, talented female artists. And then we got Pete Gambarg over at Atlantic, who is just an amazing audiophile and the best in the business and a straight shooter. So we're really, really set up to win, with those two partners. But it's a village. We all work together. We discuss songs. We talk about, Jessie's brand. Obviously, she came in with a big following and a very distinct brand, and all we're trying to do is elevate it. We cannot make an artist. The artist has to come in, and then we do our best to elevate it.
Got it. So I hear people assume that the way to make it in music today is to put out a few covers on YouTube, find a way to blow up on TikTok, and then boom, you're a star. But how does it really work these days? Like, what separates, the many who have these like kind of flash burnout viral moments from those who are able to just really dig their heels in and hang on?
Yeah, I think Jessie already spoke so eloquently about this is a business. People do release 1 or 2 songs and they do have viral moments, but there's a big difference in having a viral moment and then turning that into a long-term career. Not only does it take machinery behind it, we talk about record labels. If you look at the top 200, the Billboard top 200, there isn't anybody on there that isn't connected to a record label. And the reason is there's a machinery behind it. It is a business, right? If you want to be an international superstar, you need a level of expertise. So it takes that, but it takes mental and emotional stamina. It takes persistence. It takes that never say die attitude that Jessie has. It takes the desire to keep going. And I think that you have to really want to spread your message. There are artists that really want to be famous, in a moment, but are they artists or the entertainers? Real artists, they have this vision, they have this message. It's almost a sermon. They preach, they have a testimony, and they speak to the voiceless. They make that connection, that energy exchange with people in the world that get to live vicariously through them. That is a much bigger idea than releasing one song to TikTok and everybody jumping on because you got a little video that says, I played this for my girlfriend's mom and she was excited. Woo, blow it up for me. That's like a call to action, but that's not an artist. So we joke, we say Spotify is not a marketing plan. Like, it's an amazing tool, but there are a lot of people, Phil, give it to me, Phil. But and I've heard for years, labels are going away and A&R people are going away. There always has to be somebody to fulfill the role of champion, filter, pushing you to stretch. Sometimes you stress and sometimes you stretch. Like, there always has to be somebody in that role. Yeah. It could be management, it could be A&R, it could be whatever. But artists need that team because this is a really, really tough business. And most folks who are releasing songs on TikTok are not ready for what it requires to take it to the next level.
For sure. And when you said, it's so well put, just describing artists and that moment about a sermon, it made me think of my church because you brought up Maren Morris and you just listen to that and you're like, oh, this is an artist. So how does social media help people get launched, though, on the flip side of all of this? Because it does feel like, to certain people now, that you have to have that huge fan base. And you did say you have to be an artist already before you come to me, but do you have to be Insta famous before you come to a record label?
You don't have to be. It helps, but you don't have to be. Some people aren't naturally good at that. But again, I think that's an extension of that energy. When you're an artist and you're playing live, you're putting energy out and the fans are sending energy back to you and you're feeding off of each other. So I think social media at its best is that same relationship. There's a level of trust that it's not an artist exploiting the fans. It's an artist connecting with the fans and sharing this level of trust. And that's kind of a sacred relationship. Yeah. So in doing that, they connect directly with fans and consumers. They don't have to rely on something like radio or, an area where there are a lot of restrictions. They can just freely connect. Yeah. And that's amazing. They several of the platforms, TikTok has an algorithm that is built in such a way that you're not relying on pure followers. And huge spends and ad spends and stuff like that. So it's really good if you are just starting. Fans can stumble across your music without
nice.
Yeah, all of the spend behind it. But there are negatives to it too. And I think when artists—
That's what I was going to ask. Like,
artists grow and then they start to have someone else sometimes do their socials for them and they lose touch. And so that high touch feeling that you got in the beginning is replaced with something too often slick or generic or whatever. And so again, it's like that trust that you're breaking. So a real important thing with all socials is just to be mindful of that connection that you share with fans. every one of the best artists that I know, they are their fans. You know, they don't see their fans as separate. They don't see themselves above their fans. They are their fans, and they remember that moment when they looked up to an artist or wanted to be them, and they treat their fans, you know, with that level of respect and compassion.
Nice, nice. So Cris, at the risk of embarrassing you, Warner Music Nashville chairman and CEO John Esposito once said Cris Lacy is revered as one of the top A&R executives in the music industry. Her passion and knowledge of and for music is equaled only by her level of humanity. So humanity, like it's not a word that comes up a lot when we think about record labels, but how does it help? How does it help a record label succeed to have that?
Oh man, I think Espo was just talking about the fact that I cry when I hear a lot of songs. I don't know. You know, music is all about the human condition. That's what humanity is. We all of us, no matter where we're from or what we believe, there are certain things that we want. You know, we want to feel safe, and we want to be loved, and we want to celebrate, and we want to grieve, and that's all music is. Music is that that olive branch, or that ambassador across cultures, religions, languages, you know? And so I don't know that music exists without humanity, and I don't know record labels can't exist without music. And so they're just synonymous to me. But I also think there's an important thing that we have to do as supporters of the creatives. Look, if any of us were as talented as Jessie here, you know, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. I mean, we all have to recognize that what she does every day is put her heart and soul out into the world to be criticized. She has to find enough strength within herself to tell everybody her deepest thoughts and feelings, and just turn a blind eye to how they judge her. And that is one of the bravest things that you can do in this world. So I think as a record label, you know, the humanity is, it's really easy for all of us to get in this cycle of, there's a song here and put this one out and do all these things and follow a marketing plan. You know what I mean? But it is a business. But to stay grounded in the fact that what these artists are doing takes a lot of guts and sacrifice. And when you're talking through songs, you really are talking through their diaries and the feelings that are attached to these things, and just be mindful of what it takes to keep folks like Jessie healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, physically healthy. And I think labels are really making some changes that are important. You know, in the past, I don't think they thought about any of that stuff, right? They'd give Jessie media training, or they'd say, here's a choreographer, or let's buy you some clothes, but nobody cared about how she felt when all of these things are changing and nobody's.
And that happened.
Right.
All of it. Everything you just said verbatim. Media trainer, choreographer, this is what you're going to wear. You're going to be here at this time, and you can't say a word about it. Go.
And
exactly.
And who said, probably no one, what Al Andrews says, which is, how's your heart, Jessie?
Never. I got down to 102 pounds and was sick and sad and depressed and lonely and then lost. 19-year-old girl plucked from Georgia. And I'm like, I don't know what's happened to me. You're absolutely right. And things have changed. Sorry to interrupt you, but she's just so smart. Exactly what you just said is what happened to me.
Yeah. All the things. And it's anyway, so there's the two parts of it, right? There's the humanity for the world of the music that Jessie's putting out, and her connection to them, and how we want to bring that to the world. That gives us, you know, a sense that we're doing something that matters. But then there's the humanity within the record label that everybody has to check themselves when they're having conversations about what your words mean. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And just for those other young artists listening, or up and coming artists, hopefuls, what would you say is the one thing, just from a head A&R, that you know, a young act should try to do to get signed? Like, what is the one thing that you would say is the most important thing that they could do?
Oof, it's hard because this takes some time. It's life, you know. Really, really know who you are. Again, you can put people around you that help you with all the businessy things, but what they can't do is tell your story. So, and your story has to be unique because you're unique. So I think that's, you know, spend a lot of time figuring out exactly what it is that you want to say and why you're the only person that can say that. And then go after that. And then Jessie, what she said, man, just don't take no for an answer. You know, just keep going and keep going and keep going. I asked Kenny Chesney one time, what was different about you? Like, how did you, I mean, it could have been anybody. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but nobody knew how bad I wanted it. He goes, what they didn't know was when I wasn't having hits yet, I wanted it worse than anybody else. And I knew I wanted it worse than anybody else. And I knew I was going to make it. And he was just sitting there. It was like this rally, And so you have to want it that badly. And Jessie's proof of that. What she's been able to accomplish is incredible. And all so that she could get a platform for her music.
Nice. Well, moving to moving pictures, Michele Ann, most people probably think of studios and sound recordings when they think of record labels, but in today's social digital world, so much storytelling is visual, video. Can you tell us about your team and how you collaborate with artists to bring this new dimension to their music?
Sure. First off, I just wanted to say thanks to the RIAA for putting on this event. And Janine, thank you so much for hosting. It's really great to be on this panel with all of you guys. I don't think any of us would be on this panel if we didn't care so much about our artists and the music and the work. So it's great to be connected, especially after such a hard year for so many of our colleagues, especially in the live space. So it's really nice just to hear Cris talk about humanity and caring, because I do think this is an industry that genuinely does care. So yes, so much of an artist's story is now so visual. Our job at a label is to help an artist reach their greatest creative and commercial success. So, at Interscope, we've structured the company in a way that we believe helps meet that goal. For example, when John Janik, our CEO, first came to the company, he decided to combine the video department that I was in with the photo department, and we just became one big visual creative department. And, that means your music videos, your photo shoots, your artwork, but now it means so much more. We now speak to the artists before they're signed. We speak to the artists when they're in the recording studio making the music. We're talking to them every step of the way of how they see their music visually. So, it translates into making creative for the normal tools, but it also translates into what does your TV show look like? What does your award show performance look like? What does your, tour look like? And, do I know you well enough now that maybe we talk about making a TV show or a documentary or a feature film? So really, the box has been opened in the new way. Labels have structured themselves, and we're really there to help bring visual to life.
Nice. And well, Olivia Rodrigo thanked you and others at the IGA team for bringing Sour to life visually and being the most caring people in the world, she said. So what can you tell us about that process specifically and for this album, but more broadly, working with any new artist?
Olivia is a beautiful person on the inside and out. I think for my birthday this past summer, she baked cookies and literally dropped them off at my house herself. I think I still have to return Tupperware to her, but she's amazing. And I think a lot of Olivia's success has to do with the fact that she also has a brilliant manager, Kristen Smith. And what Kristen does so well is she hears her client out as a manager, but then she brings the team around Olivia in the right way. And she's built this phenomenal team, including working with the label creative team to make all of Olivia's visual dreams come true. Actually, all of her music dreams come true. So I think with a record label, a lot of it has to do with, one, building trust with that artist first. The artist really needs to trust their label. Two, really locking arms with awesome managers who will build that team around the artist. And then three, just getting to work and hearing the artist out and really executing that vision. So that is some key ingredients, I think, to success.
I love that. So we used to have album covers, as you said. Now we have the whole living tapestry of video, digital art, stage and set design, even fashion. Just how much visual work goes into the success of a song or an artist these days?
Oh my gosh, I feel like a song is as much about the audio as it is about the visual. I think, at IGA, we truly do believe that, which is why John has us structured the way we are. I think, we are there from the beginning, and we sit with the artist and we really dissect, what does every lyric mean to you? What color do you see? How would you describe your feeling? How would you interpret that visually? So we're sitting there locking arms with the artist and trying to make that really come to life. But it's not just the album cover. It's not just the music video. There are so many ways now. When I first came to IGA, which was 15 years ago, this idea of the long tail really kicked in. It wasn't just that there were a handful of gatekeepers. There's thousands of ways now for an artist to reach different niche audiences. And how are you making the visuals to super serve all those different audiences? And that's kind of what we're here to do. And the way we're structured now is, we have a revenue department that is talking to the streaming partners like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. And we have a publicity department that is talking to the Pitchforks or the AMAs or the Grammys. And we have an international department that's talking to every territory around the world. But what we're doing differently is, because for me, as part of the creative team, we're with the artists, really getting to understand their heart, their mind, and what they see visually. All the different platforms that I just described, we're making sure, and the label gives us space to talk to each of those platforms to make sure that the branding of the artist shines through. Whether it's a TV show in Japan or it's a interview for Apple Music, we're making sure that the branding is consistent throughout. And that really comes from really, really, really getting to know your artist. And that starts with trust.
Nice. Would you say there's been a shift from, that old idea of, this is what you're going to wear. This is what your video, that's a horrible idea. This is what you're going to do to, what you have now. Let's just go into a living example, Billie Eilish's Rotating Room SNL performance. It's been watched over 8 million times on YouTube. It's instantly memorable visual, and one you must have known would have been a big success. So with a piece like that, did that ideate with your team or with her, and how did that come about? And then is that something that you think about, will this go viral when you're making visuals like this?
Yeah, I don't, everyone always wants something to go viral. There's no secret formula to making something go viral. I think what we like to do is we like to start with artist authenticity. If an artist is authentic, if the idea is authentic and genuine, the fans know. The fans are so smart. So something will take off if the fans really connect to it. And that's through authenticity. And, Billie Eilish is the perfect example of an authentic artist. I would never tell Billie what to wear. I don't think anybody could tell Billie what to wear. But what I do understand is why she chooses to wear what she wants. And, I think by flipping that understanding, we end up getting really creative together, and that's really fun. For SNL, it was something we had all ideated, and she had said, "Oh my gosh, for SNL, I want to be bouncing off the walls." So I think we pretty much came up with an idea that met that goal.
Nice. That's just such a good example of taking something that was organic from the artist and then using, what you guys have, this knowledge, this creativity from the record label to kind of turn it into what works for everyone. So that's so cool.
Yeah. Brian and Melanie at the SNL team and the whole crew over at SNL, they're amazing. And they really, again, listened to what Billie wanted. We worked with this awesome company, Moment Factory, to bring it to life. And Billie herself, through videos, through voice notes, through meetings at her house, I think it's in a making of video, but she literally took a tissue box and showed us how she wanted it to work and the speed of the rotation. So we're really getting that granular with our artists to build out their creative.
That's cool. That's cool. So I want to throw this to Jessie, though. The single art or an artist's music video is often like the first time a fan puts a face with a voice that they've heard on the radio or playlist. So can you tell us, as an artist, why having the right visuals is so important to your career?
And that is like probably what I think is one of my strengths. I am all about the visuals, and I think you can have the most amazing song or a singer, but I completely agree with Michele. You've got to have that visual to match it. It's just as important. It just is. It always is. And I feel like I learned that even through my very first record deal. It was very important to L.A. Reid, and I learned that from him. He wanted you to look like a star, be a star, appear to be a star, and really find out what is unique to you and blow it up, because that's what's going to separate you from the rest. Your voice and your song is going to separate you, but so is your look, your image, the creative behind everything. What makes you different than everyone else? You know, and I look at even country music right now. Everything goes through trends. Everything goes through an image. We had our bro country with backward wear hats, and then it gets a little diluted and everyone's doing it. So you got to switch it up again. Right now, all the girls have found cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and they're all starting to wear the same thing. You got, who's going to be the next person to switch it up? Because it gets diluted, it gets worn out, and then you got to find the next trend to separate you. And that's what makes it, that your visual and your image, it actually makes it more authentic to you, because it makes you just as unique as the sound you're trying to give people. So obviously we're all inspired and influenced by artists from decades and decades ago. I'm obsessed with Jennifer Lopez and Shania Twain, and, you know, even right down to Loretta Lynn. I'm obsessed with these women, but how can I take those influences I love so much and really make it my own, so that no one looks like me? No one else's album packaging or music video looks like something like that I would do. And so when we went to go do that for Should Have Known Better, I feel like what I put together and what my team put together for my outfit, I've never seen anyone wear that. You know, we had an amazing convertible, old antique 1950s car in the desert, and, you know, we were doing our thing. It was different than anything you'd seen on CMT right now. And so that's the whole point, is to be creative, but make sure it's, you know, different than anything else that's out there.
All right, now we have to go over to our guy on the panel. We have not forgotten about him, and we are going to ask him about, well, you know, just doing it all, which ironically is something that I feel like women get asked about a lot, but you really do. You do it all in this industry. And so Phil Thornton, you know, artists do so much more than record and tour now, from social media to videos to podcasts to TV to fashion brands and product lines. And we have a great example of that here with us today with Jessie. So how do labels work to create new opportunities with their artist partners? And what does it take to build a strategy covering just so much different ground these days?
Well, first, I just want to thank you for having me here. I'm learning so much, and I feel like some of the smartest people in this industry. I'm like, I'm taking notes. Michele, I'm taking notes. Cris and Jessie, I'm like, okay, like this is just, but it's our industry is constantly evolving, and a lot of things have been touched on the visual and just the overall heart and the direction, but the additional verticals is what I call them that can be created around our artists and partners. And, you know, at Sony Music, we're building everything from podcasts to documentaries to partnering with artists for various festivals. So we're looking at it in a holistic approach. Some might say years ago, a 360 approach, but I don't want to use that term in general, but looking at it from a holistic point of view to say, you know, talking with the artist, hearing their vision. One thing I always ask artists when I'm signing them or meeting them for the first time, give me your vision. Let's talk about goals, 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, like, and really hearing and understanding where they want to go and how we can serve and be the best partners. So I had an artist that sat down with me when I first started at Sony and expressed interest in wanting to do a music festival. And, you know, he walked me through it. And again, I would have thought this artist, because of the notoriety and the awards that he had, that this would be a no-brainer for him and his agent. That artist was Kirk Franklin. So immediately I said, this is a great idea. Let me pair you with an agent, a friend of mine who I think would totally get the concept. And fast forward, he's in the third year of his festival with Live Nation, you know, for the Exodus Festival. So yeah, just one example of how we listen to our artists, our partners, no matter if it's a new signing or a legacy act, to say, how can we be our, you know, as partner? We're building out, like I said, podcast or something that's constantly growing. You have over 111 million weekly listeners for podcasts. So that's as you know, Janine, so it's a growing market, but our artists and our partners, they have something to say, and it may be in the traditional musical form, but it may be like, hey, I have something to say every week for 30 minutes, and I just want to talk with some of my friends or just share what's on my heart or talk about mental health or whatever is important to the artist. And we have to basically, in my opinion, support the artists and these ventures, because we're not just a partner on the music side. There's so much more there. So whether they want to write a book or a memoir, labels have, the role of the label has evolved over the years, and it will continue to evolve. And I look at our company as more of an entertainment company. So it's not just audio, music related. I mean, we do it all. And so we're going to continue to find those unique and innovative ways to partner with our artists.
Nice. It reminds me of Tamar Braxton, one of RCA Inspirations artists who has under construction her podcast.
Yes.
That, just really talks about her journey. And then, you have her music to couple with that. So it's really that connection with the fans, like from all aspects. But we've talked a lot today about the changing ways people find and listen to music. So what does that mean for genres outside of the biggest ones like pop, rap, and country? So how do people find inspirational music and gospel music today? Asking for myself and my mom and my grandma.
Okay. We're constantly evaluating ways to create discovery, which ultimately should lead to consumption. That's why we're all doing this, right? So, but one of those, the visual is key, as we touched on earlier in the conversation. Having that right presentations, let me go back, starting with the right song. Let's go there, having the right song, the right artist, but the visual presentation. We're partnering with the DSPs to explore a variety of ways to, whether it's playlisting editorial support or creating additional content to make our titles stand out from our competitors. And so that's something super important. Television is another thing for inspirational music that we've seen. It's a way to create awareness. So whether it's a mainstream Good Morning America appearance or something like the Stellar Award. So, it's a wide range, or the Grammys. So we're fortunate enough to, have a lot of televised opportunities, which helps create awareness.
Sunday's best.
Sunday's best. There you go. So, then, again, and I feel like the more we build out podcasts, I just saw a recent study how podcasts is really a source for a lot of music discovery. So I'm really exploring some ways there with new podcasts that we're launching as a company to just test that theory out even further. Just finding those unique ways to just create the awareness. And it's not easy. And partnering with artists like Tamar Braxton, who's a mainstream artist who has a mainstream footprint that can kind of shine more light and bring more attention to the inspirational genre. So, working on that with Tamar, but I'm also working on something for Christmas with the Queen of Christmas. You know who that is. So again, that's going to get a certain level of attention because of who it is. So that, there's a number of ways, but really just trying to find great content and finding those ways to properly, people feel like exploit, when you say exploit, it's not a bad thing, but how do we maximize and further expose our music? And it's just it's ever changing. And so we're just constantly every day, of course, digital marketing is a way, but it's ever changing. But television, expanding our DSP strategy. And I would say just really continue to be more aggressive on the digital marketing side. And for gospel specifically, we've really seen a lot of opportunity internationally. So we're seeing interest from Africa, as well as the Philippines and other territories around the world that have really, stepped up and really say, hey, you know what, we're interested in this genre of music. It's clean, it's family friendly. So a lot of opportunity.
By the way, something to add to what Phil's saying is, yes, record labels have evolved and we're doing a lot more, and we can do it all, like put out a book or a feature film or do television. I think the key thing though is artists want to do it with us. Artists do have choices, but they want to do it with us because they realize that their team at the label have their back. They know them so well, and we already know how to lay some good groundwork so that when the artist comes in to execute that vertical, there's a team there already executing it for them. So it's the artist wants to do it with us, I think is key.
Cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Janine, one more vertical that I oftentimes we can't forget about, and I think everyone on the panel would agree, sync opportunities. That's been another way that we've been able to expose our music by way of commercials or television, films, or docs.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot more traction for our genre and a lot of films and television shows. I'm putting our songs in everything from VH1 weekly series and, to big budget films. So that's been yet another driver, and the Shazams prove that. So.
So, for sure.
Yeah.
When I think of, oh my goodness, when I think of Lizzo's career and what being in, on Netflix and like having that song kind of just grow out of a movie. It's just such a huge avenue as well. And I just want to go back for the one or two people who might be scratching their heads. Mariah Carey, Mimi, Queen of Christmas. Yes.
That is the Queen of Christmas.
Yes,
we have something special for the holidays coming very, very soon from the
Awesome.
Queen of Christmas. Yeah.
Awesome. So you talk a lot about preserving the legacy of Black music, and just make that concrete for us. What can leaders in the music business today do to sustain Black creativity and to honor the contributions of the past and build a greater future for tomorrow?
Great question, Janine. I mean, Black music is the foundation for every genre of music. I mean, going back to gospel, which turned into jazz, into the blues, which then, country and everything was derived. So, Black music is American music. And that's something that I always remind everyone. And, here in Nashville, where I'm based, we have the National Museum of African American Music, which I sit on the board. But it's a great institution that really just reminds you of the musical legacy of American music. And as a part of that legacy, it's important to make sure that the music industry landscape from an executive point of view is also represented. Again, I believe in having the most diverse workforce and making sure that people who are experts in various genres of music are also, prominently featured and in the C-suite where possible. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth within our industry, and just knowing how prominent, R&B, hip hop, and other genres have been for many years. It's super important to just kind of have the right representation and people that can also share the vision with the artist and execute it accordingly.
Nice. And you saying that makes me think back to Ken Burns's documentary Country Music. And I had no idea. I knew about Black music with rock and roll and all of that, but just the roots in country music, that really blew my mind. So true.
And so it's important just to, uphold the legacy and integrity. It just, it's super important because, again, we want to separate and say Black music, but Black music is American music. That's something that I always just tell everyone and encourage you. If you haven't seen the museum, just please check it out. But it will show you a lot of just facts and connect the dots and say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that this person was inspired by or influenced by. And it's great. But, Black music is American music.
Absolutely. And so let's now go to the big picture. I am going to Michele Ballantyne. Hi, how are you over there?
Hi, I'm fine.
So you represent record labels in Washington, D.C.
That's
so
right.
What do you wish policymakers understood just better about what record labels do today?
So I think that one thing that's so important is that people should understand that the music business is not staying still. It's constantly evolving, and so are record labels. And this is like a perfect example of that. When you hear about all the different opportunities and the different ways that we can help folks realize their vision. I made some notes about what everyone was talking about. It's so hard to I'm just going to try and tie it all together because everyone here has been so great talking about their experiences and what they do as their job. But I think partnership is really key. And I think Jessie would agree with that, but also Cris and Michele and Phil, that's what we do in our jobs, right? It's partnership. And the idea of creativity and thinking about the big picture and making sure that people understand that the artist's voice is authentic. We help to communicate all of that and break through the clutter and just make sure that people are able to express themselves. And then lastly, the humanity aspect. We're all in it together. And that works. That's all of the music ecosystem, right? I mean, we can't be successful without our artists. Social media companies and platforms and streaming companies, they all have to have artists and the music. They rely on that to be successful. And then the fans also rely on all the different ways that they can get music. So it would, for me, what would be perfect is if Jessie would come to Washington and talk about her experience. We are always trying to rope people in to come and talk to policymakers. Cris knows that. She's been here. And Phil knows that because we've had people in Nashville along with us. And Michele will get roped in anyway, just because. But we just want to make sure that everyone understands what it means to be in a modern record label today. And those are all key parts of it.
Yeah. And so just take me into that landscape, because Congress seems so polarized.
Yeah.
It is polarized.
It is.
Seem that way. And gridlocked. So is that a problem for the music industry at all? Like, how does that affect what you're doing?
Well, on the daily basis, it doesn't, because our issues are very bipartisan, and we're lucky about that. The committees that we go to lobby and advocate for artists and labels are committees that hear some of the most divisive and polarizing pieces of business, including, guns and judicial issues and social justice reform. And so we go to them and talk to them about music. Like, how lucky are we, right? We get to talk about music that touches everyone. And so, we rarely have a problem getting people to act in a bipartisan way, because they all care about music. And one thing that is so true, and I think everyone here knows that, is that you can't get anything done in Washington unless you come with a unified message. So we are really, really lucky that we can do that.
Nice. And then what would you say is one of those issues that has just been at the forefront for you, and you've been able to kind of make some headway?
Okay, so the Music Modernization Act was just the most recent piece of copyright legislation that's been passed. It helps artists, labels, everyone in the songwriter community, publishers. So it's a piece of legislation that we all had different issues in it that we wanted to get done. Every community, every aspect of the community in the music ecosystem had pieces of it that they wanted to get passed, but we actually were able to come together and go together hand in hand as a united music community. And that was how we managed to get it done. Right. And It was like a lot of calls and lobbying, and can you talk to this member? Can you ask this artist to talk to that member? Can you get the publisher or the songwriter? But we all were in it together, and that's how we got things done. And that's just such an important message. It sounds maybe a little bit cheesy or old fashioned, but it really is important. Like, that is how you achieve change in Washington. And all over, actually. So the Music Modernization Act was the most recent piece. Other things that we've been involved in lately, though, that we weren't expecting to be involved in, is social justice reform. We got together with artists and label executives and folks who work at our labels, and they said, we really want to make our voices heard on this. And one thing that we're lucky about at RIAA is that we know how to go and talk to the folks, right? And how to make the connections. And the same for helping our friends in the live business, the independent venues who have suffered so much through COVID, and also COVID relief. So all of these things where we try to work together with others, but help make the connections so that people can see, like, here's where we need help, here's where we need action.
Yeah. And you were kind of pointing to Jessie there. So I just want to talk a lot about how, how do artists help the RIAA with its work, and how do you kind of garner that star power to your ends?
So
sorry, I thought you were asking me. I was like,
no, I'm happy to answer that question. Although I think everyone on the panel can certainly speak to it as well. Members of Congress are just like everybody else. They love music. They love artists, and where artists can help is coming and coming to town if they can, or when it's safe, or but also by making phone calls or sending letters or tweeting at people. I mean, artists' engagement can make a big difference for everyone in our music ecosystem, including the artists. So we encourage that when people are willing and when it's appropriate. And it's kind of fun and interesting for people to see a different way of business, a different side of life. You know, DC has its own tricky intricacies that we try to help people navigate, but artists really can make a difference for our industry by getting involved, you know, where it suits them. So we encourage that, and we always try to rope people in. And like I said, Cris knows that because we've dragged her here a couple times, more than a couple of times, to come and talk to members of Congress about what she does in her job. And that's a way for everyone here, everyone who works in the music business, who works at a label, to explain, like, here's what I do. You know, I always make this joke about how members of Congress find it very useful to hear from real people, in quotes, right? Real people is what we used to have on the presidential schedule, when you would have someone who actually lived in that town or was affected by that issue. And we used to call them real people, TBD, to be determined. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it makes a difference, though, because they'll listen. They're tired of talking to us, who we go see them all the time. We call them all the time here in DC. But when you get someone who can really speak to it as a personal and deeply important matter, then it makes a difference. It does move the needle.
That's making me think of Olivia Rodrigo, who was standing up there.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. That's a perfect example with the push to get people vaccinated. That's a perfect example. But you know, when someone can come and explain what they do as articulately as Jessie, and explain, like, here's what it was like for me, and here was my experience, and here's why this made a difference for me, it really does matter.
Awesome. Well, we are getting down to the wire, but there are a few just maybe rapid fire questions, and anyone can weigh in or raise your hand. One of them is, you know, what is new in the business that really is just kind of like pushing your education, your knowledge? Is it, you know, social apps, NFTs? Like, what's something that you are really kind of consumed with right now, getting your head around in the music business?
Yeah, we have a lot of data. I don't know if there's anything specific for me. It's just we have so much data on so many things, and it's really figuring out how to use it. You know, how to use it to put out music at the right time, to again elevate something at just the right moment. It just that stuff is constantly changing. So we're lucky at Warner. We have incredible tools and tech, but we've got to really drill down and figure out what to do with all of it, you know?
For sure. What about this question about, you know, the zero-sum competition between labels and artists, or that old idea? Like, has that changed completely in that the label succeeds now when the artists and their work succeed? Or, you know, and how has that changed?
We're partners with the artists. Like, I mean, and again, when the artist wins, we win as a label. And a lot of our deals now reflect a winning formula. And it's, you know, we all have all types of structures and licensing and profit shares and so forth, but we're incentivized for success. And I think it's important that, you know, we all share in the profits and share in the revenue, and our artists work hard and their teams work hard, and as do our teams work hard. And we're all, at the end of the day, I look at it as one collective team. And I love the idea of having our creators having ownership, you know, and I understand the, you know, economics, and I work for a label and I'm proud to, but it's refreshing to see some of the new deal structures and models that are coming into play. So it incentivizes our partners / artists. That's why I call them partners, for success, and want to work hard. So it's a win-win for us all when we have a hit record and we can go to the RIAA and say, I got a certification for a platinum. I'm just like, y'all do so much more than that, but that's one of the many things that our friends at the RIAA, you know,
we love doing that. We love doing that. Celebrating artist success is something that's so important to us, and we love it.
Absolutely.
Right. All right, one more in the rapid fire. How about this shift to digital, like, or this, you know, this, I guess, idea that maybe it's easier now for record labels because you guys aren't shipping CDs and pressing records and doing all that. It's just, it's on streaming services or whatever it is.
Hold on, Janine. One correction, and Michele, back me up on this.
Yeah,
vinyl, we're seeing a resurgence. I mean, it's growing year over year. So
that's true.
You're still pressing records. Yeah. Crazy, right?
That's true. I've gotten a couple, which I covet. I love them.
The truth, Janine, is
I think that would be a mistake. Oh, sorry, Michele. You go
ahead.
Yeah,
I was going to say the truth is vinyl feels hotter than ever, but the production timeline to make vinyl is so long because there are so few vinyl factories out there. So, if an artist wants vinyl, they need to know what that packaging looks like 16 weeks in advance. Wow. That's 4 months that they have to sit and wait for their music to come out. So it's a whole thing. Shift digital.
So you guys are doing the old stuff and the new stuff.
Yeah,
it's even harder. It's even harder these days.
And the volume of new stuff, Michele. Oh, sorry, Jessie. Now I jumped on.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's a mistake to take that away completely. Being able to go in and get a physical product from your favorite artist. I think we're going to see a wave of this new generation wanting to get out and go in physical stores and have an experience. The people younger than us were born into having everything online and digital. They're used to it. We're still so amazed that we can get everything online, but these young kids were born having it. My kids are not phased that they can press the button. They want to go out and do something physical. So my last record that came out 3 years ago, 60% of my sales were from Target, because they wanted to go buy my album. It was unheard of. My album sold out the first day in Target because they underestimated my fans wanting to go and purchase it and have that experience, to go hold that album up and go, I got this today. And so I think it's a huge mistake. I don't know if it'll be CDs. I don't know what it'll be, but I think getting rid of that physical product will be a mistake because I think it's going to make a comeback in some way.
That is so true.
We are having so much fun working with artists now and their D2C and what all that physical looks like. And by the way, Jessie, I texted my coworker that I'm on a panel with you, and she is freaking out. She's like, "Tell her I love her," with 10 caps. So lots of fans.
That's how I said hi.
Awesome. And just even you talking about that, it makes me think back of buying Bills, Destiny's Child when I was I went up the street to Warehouse and got that CD. Oh my goodness. You guys, this has been so awesome. And I just want to thank you all for your insight. I have learned, as you were saying earlier, Phil, I've learned so much by listening to all of you. And I hope everyone watching has as well.